My name is Ephraim Borowski. I'm the director of the Scottish Council of Jewish Communities. And in 2012, we did a piece of research which we called Being Jewish in Scotland, which was funded by the Scottish Government in order to look into people's experiences, both positive and negative, of living as Jewish people in Scotland. And at that time, the results were fairly positive overall. Somebody said, and we used this as the caption on the cover of the book, somebody said to us, Scotland's a really good place to be a Jew. In 2014, we carried out the research again because we were becoming concerned at the level of reports that we were receiving from members of the community about antisemitism of one kind or another. And on that occasion, we found a significant number of people who told us that they didn't feel at home, that they felt vulnerable, that they felt alienated. And the person who in 2012 had said that Scotland's a damn good place to be a Jew told us that she no longer felt Scottish and was thinking about leaving. So things really have changed over those couple of years. Fortunately, I've never, in Scotland at any rate, been the victim of a physical attack of any kind. I have been both on the tube in London and in the back streets of Jerusalem, but they are not relevant to what we're talking about today. As far as Scotland is concerned, I would have said nothing tremendously serious other than a bit of name calling until very recently, but people will be aware of the so-called Nazi dog case in Airdrie, where a local self-publicist posted a film on YouTube of him teaching his dog to give a Nazi salute in response to the prompt, Sieg Heil or Gas the Jews. And that was prosecuted. I was called as a witness, in effect, to give a community impact assessment. And as a result of me being cited as a witness, both SCoJeC, the organisation, and me personally were bombarded with literally hundreds of abusive messages on email, YouTube, and social media in general. And some of these were quite explicit death threats, some of which have been published but not attributed. So that's something that's relatively fresh in my mind. And of course, stories like that make it into the headlines in the newspapers, and they unsettle the entire community. Every time there's an incident anywhere in the world, people say, well, it could have been here. And every time there are headlines about anti-Semitism, which sadly in the United Kingdom and in Europe in general is almost every day, people are looking over their shoulders. So there's a general sense of vulnerability in the community. The anti-Semitism statistics that were published by the Community Security Trust very recently show that both in Scotland and in the UK at large, the level of anti-Semitic incidents is at an all-time high, but per capita of the population in Scotland, it's actually quite a lot lower than it is in the rest of the UK. So it's a very mixed picture. On the one hand, there are far too many incidents and people feel very vulnerable. And on the other hand, actually, Scotland is still relatively safe compared with the rest of the UK and certainly some parts of Europe. What triggered doing the research that I've referred to is we have regular meetings with civil servants from the Justice Department and the Communities Department in the Scottish Government, and with Police Scotland and the prosecutors. And at one of these meetings, I mentioned an incident which had been reported to us at a meeting that we had held in the West Highlands. So this is a rural area, and people were coming, their really very detached from the Jewish community. They don't have a synagogue at the street corner to go to. They will travel for 50 miles to come to an event that we are putting on in rural areas. And somebody who came to this event said that, she was really grateful for the opportunity to tell this story about something that had happened to her 10-year-old daughter at school. The 10-year-old daughter had come home. She obviously was uneasy about something, didn't want to talk about it. And eventually she got her to tell the story. She was bullied in the playground because you, notice the finger, you killed Jesus. So the mother did what mothers do and went to speak to the school teacher. And the school teacher's answer was, "What are you complaining about? Of course you did." Now, we told that story to the civil servants, and they were horrified, of course. And then we carried on with the rest of the agenda and we went away. And a year later, we had another meeting with them. And the most senior civil servant there said, that story you told us about the school kid has lived with me for a whole year. And I want to find out how typical it is. So we are going to fund research to check that out. And I have to say that one of the things we discovered was that it was not unique. We were told very similar stories by, I think, 3 people out of the approximately 300 people we spoke to for the research. And that is merely one kind of, if you like, old-fashioned anti-Semitism. Then there's the MSPs who unthinkingly distribute anti-Semitic cartoons, whether it's about the Rothschilds or whether it's about bankers or whether it's about Mossad and the protocols of the Elders of Zion. Every single variety of old-fashioned anti-Semitism that you can mention exists today somewhere in Scotland.